Today we're going to be studying the process of apportionment, redistricting, and gerrymandering. I would like you to write these three words across the top of your notes page for today. As you can see by the picture of this on the screen, the process of apportionment, redistricting, and gerrymandering all have to do with maps, specifically where the representatives come from that serve in the United States House of Representatives. If you're not yet finished writing apportionment, redistricting, and gerrymandering across the top of your page, please have the sub press pause until everyone is finished, then press continue. And from time to time you might hear Hunter in the background. He's not feeling well today, so that's why we're doing this by video. Thanks for your understanding. Apportionment literally means to set up who serves where. You can see the word portion here in the center of the word. All right. The first part of the process, or step one of the apportionment process, is to count the people. We do that every 10 years. We do that every 10 years with the census.
When you take 10 minutes to answer 10 questions, you help our community get what it needs for the next, 10 years. We can't move forward until you mail it back. 2010 Census.
So the United States government every 10 years sends out forms for everyone to fill out that help determine how a lot of things are going to be used. It's not just apportionment. We'll look at that in a minute. But the short form has 10 questions. The first question, as you can see here on the screen, is how many people were living or staying in this house or apartment or mobile home on April 1st of 2010. And it says so that they can get an accurate count of the people. The second question is, were there any additional people staying there that were not included, like newborns or relatives or non-relatives, or people staying there temporarily, or no additional people? I'm not sure why they asked that question. Maybe some people think that some people in the house don't count at that point. Well, who knows? The next one is your home a house, an apartment, or a mobile home? And they determine that part of the nation's economy based on who's renting or who owns, or if you have an arrangement so that you can live somewhere rent-free. The next question is for your phone number so that they can follow up, and believe me, they do. I'll have to tell you a story about that tomorrow. Let's see, the next question is to provide information on the people, their first name, their last name, and their middle initial, and their gender. And as it says, census data about gender is important because many federal programs differentiate based on funding. And so when they determine how many men and women live in different places, it helps determine how many programs can be offered for those areas. Question number 7, it deals with your age. Again, looking at providing funds or services. And then they look at race and ethnicity, Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin. And it says this goes into monitoring compliance with the anti-discrimination provisions like the Voters' Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act, and offering bilingual programs, and then filling out the forms for other people who are in your home and other races that are represented. And then finally, if you live somewhere else but you're filling out your form. For example, if you're in a nursing home, or even if you live in jail, you can still be counted on the census. So that's what the short form looks like. The long form is about 35 pages long and goes into many other questions, which we'll discuss, and I'll even show you a copy if I can find mine. So first we count the people. That happens every 10 years with the census. Please make sure you have that noted. The long form was sent out in the summer of 2009. The short form was in March of 2010. Once the answers are back, as far as the legislative branch of the government goes, the next thing we have to do is literally called apportionment. And that means determine how many people are in each state so that you can determine how many representatives you have. The goal right now is to have approximately 650 people, or 650,000 people per representative. As you can see in the picture, Wyoming, when we talked about electoral college, this is how this all comes together. Wyoming has only, well, for the 2000 census, Wyoming had just under 500,000 people, so they get one representative. California had, well, over 33 million people. yeah, 33 million people. I'm sorry, I'm tired. 33 million people, and so they were assigned 53. And so we have to do our math. You count how many people, you divide them by approximately 650,000, and it determines the numbers of representatives that you receive. Please make sure that you've noted that step 2 is to determine how many representatives each state receives of the 435. The next step is to draw district lines. And as you can see from the cartoon, redistricting, or to redraw those lines, it happens every 10 years. It's a huge battle. And your goal is to make sure that every state has a balance of party tendencies. You don't want to have different states have different levels of representation. So, for example, we had in the 2000 districts, we can compare plans. Let's see, plan. So we have different lines that we can draw. These are the 2002 lines or districts, and these are going to be the 2012 districts. So we're going to change our lines, and the lines will change every 10 years. And what they do is they look at the demographic data to determine where the Republicans and where the Democrats vote. You can see in blue, the darker the blue, the more Democratic the area. The darker the red, the more Republican. You want to try to make sure that people are balanced in parties so that everybody has a chance to win. Each party is supposed to be balanced. Now, as you can see, on the western side of our state, it's pretty hard to draw a line that would balance that party out. It's also tricky because if you're a person who represents this district, you have to represent people way up in the north and then way down in the south. You have different economies that are up in those areas as well. So you have to try to balance those tendencies. You'll have a couple websites to explore as well regarding this soon. As we're getting ready to collect the data from the 2010 census, it was guessed that, or projected that, Arizona, Florida, and Georgia, Nevada, South Carolina would all gain 1. Texas was slated to gain 4. Sorry about that. Utah was expected to gain 1, as was Washington State. States were expected to lose. You can see the states that were expected to lose representation here in red. You don't have to necessarily write any of these down, but in the actuals, Texas and Florida did each gain, and so Florida gained more than anticipated. Texas held what was expected, and everybody else had 1. The people who lost, New York and Ohio, each lost 2, and the other states lost 1. Now, right here, Minnesota, we were projected to lose 1, so they really focused on making sure that everybody filled out their census forms in Minnesota, because then some people in the wintertime go to Florida, and we didn't want those people to be counted as Florida residents, or we could have lost a legislator. Once they have counted all of the people, we have to actually make a plan for redistricting. This usually ends up in a lawsuit. In fact, the courts in Minnesota have drawn the lines more than the legislators have because they can't agree on a plan, partially because no Republicans and Democrats want to draw a line that might actually help them lose in a district race. And so here's our lines. Let's see if our video still plays. Our video is not there anymore, so we'll just continue here. But Michelle Bachmann had a problem because her house was actually redrawn so that it wasn't in the same district anymore, so that was a problem for her. Redistricting was happening everywhere. In Arizona and Chicago, there were lawsuits. In California, they were redrawing the lines. Every 10 years, everybody has to redraw their lines. Gerrymandering is our next process, and that we're going to look at. And I'm going to pause the video here. I'm going to put up a link on the wiki to watch this video, and part 2 of our video will continue there. So please go to the wiki, have our sub go to the wiki, and help them click on the gerrymandering video link.